Storm clouds moving in. Whatever's gonna happen, it's about to begin. I remember what the drunk donkey told me when he said, son, don't fear. Mike's where the pig's life is about to begin. Then he's gonna tell you about the wind and the rain. Gonna tell you which way it's going, if it's gonna be a hurricane. Don't you worry about the news that they try to hide. Just click on Mike's page, Drunk Donkey Nationwide. Well, there'll always be some haters, but they don't understand that Mike's got a friend and 100,000 more across the land. Well, if you want to know it first and you want to know it right and you want to have time to plan, Drunk Donkey Nation tells you when Mike, he's your man. Then he's gonna tell you all about the wind and the rain. Gonna tell you if it's gonna be a storm, if it's gonna be a hurricane. Don't you worry about the news that it's trying to hide. Look on Mike's page, Drunk Donkey Nation. Yeah, here in Mike's page, Drunk Donkey Nation.
All right, everybody, good morning. We got trouble brewing. I hate to say it, but there's no more hype. We're dealing with reality now. So I appreciate you coming over here on a Sunday morning. It's 9:19 Eastern here in Oldsmar, sunny Florida for now. I'm watching. You're watching. We're all watching. I know we're going to have thousands of people here streaming. We're streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and X right now. I have a hard time reading comments. They come by so quick. So I'm not rude, but we're going to go right into the tropics here in a second. So first and foremost, that little intro has a little bit of who I am. If you're new to the page, welcome. I am not a meteorologist. I always highly recommend following National Weather Service, National Hurricane Center during times like these, because sometimes the data I put out there could be thought of hype or confusing. So if this isn't your thing, that's great. And publicly announcing that I hype is great too, because 99% of our followers will say I'm not. So, This is a bad day right now. I'm having memories of Ian because of the unknown and reading people's comments, their emotions. Some think it's not going to be anything. We're dealing with a tropical depression right now, right? Some people might think, oh my God, what's all the fuss about? Well, some of those models that we've been watching, the National Hurricane Center this morning started referring them to the future forecast, meaning words like rapid intensification or probable. Those are things you don't want to hear, especially in discussions from the National Hurricane Center. So I've been sharing those models, teasing those models. Now they're mentioning the models. It's not only me anymore. We got real possibilities of a major hurricane in just a couple days. Landfall would be maybe Tuesday night. All right, this is coming quick. So Ian was a little different. We had a lot of confidence. The Hurricane Center was showing a major hurricane. Right now, they're just teasing the idea of a 90-mile-an-hour hurricane on Tuesday. So what I'm going to do, I got a list of notes here. I asked Shelly to give me some ideas. I'm going to try to cover everything that I get the feeling people want to hear. and hopefully it's covered. I don't go over individual areas. It's impossible. I at some point you kind of have to think for yourselves. I mean, it's not being rude or sarcastic, but individual towns are impossible to cover when we're talking about a large system. So, everybody's effects are a little different. You just have to know the worst case scenario possibilities and put yourself in that position and say, okay, that could be happening in my area. And then we'll go from there. This is Louis. He's been around forever. We have a lot of original Conehead family. Mike's Weather Page. We cheers every day. We talk weather every day. Right, Louis? We have great supporters. ABC Fine Wine and Spirits here in Florida is our #1 Daily Brew sponsor for 5 years now, and a lot of Floridians support them because of our page, and we appreciate that. We have a lot of local support. Done Right Roofing this year, so I'm sure they're watching here in Pinellas County, Pasco, Hillsborough. There's a chance we're going to get some big weather here, even at home. So we're going to dive right into it. Try to keep it simple. So my style of reporting over the years has been sharing things I believe in and not having an agenda, okay? A lot of people, I think, today's world don't want to know reality of possibilities. I'm responsible getting totally off weather, but my first colonoscopy, I was more worried about what they might find than getting it done, and I put it off. So I think when I start sharing these models, people don't want to believe it, so they go to sources or claim that I'm hyping. But we've all saw this storm brewing. I've talked endlessly about it for over a week now, and now reality is setting in that conditions are lining up for a classic 9 out of 10 storm scenario. I talk about it at every show. I'm not even going to go into it right now. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Rapid intensification in the Gulf of Mexico is real. Hot water is real, and we're witnessing it. Real quick before I get into TD10, we got people that watch in Bermuda, supporters that pay money. Thank you. This is Franklin. It's a hurricane. It's actually going to almost pull future Idalia with them. Steering currents. Bermuda's still barely on the edge. So the good news, at least, is you're going to get effects midweek, storms passing by, but as far as a direct hit, it's looking less likely. More. The euro kind of bounced back to the west a little bit. So Bermuda's watching close. Midweek storms. You guys are used to that. It should be moving by pretty quick, and then hopefully that's out of the picture. What we're watching is this big bubble of convection. All right. It went south today. Everybody's asking, why did it go south? Well, the steering currents down there are very weak. This has been sitting over water, something that they originally didn't think was going to happen. Yesterday, we were looking at the 500 millibar upper level winds, and now apparently you can see very clear as day. This is what the hurricane hunters are looking for, a really clear low level circulation. That wasn't there yesterday. That's the Cancun. We got anybody down in Cancun partying right now? But that's clear, 1,000 millibar, extremely clear. These winds, hurricane hunters are flying in there right now. Almost would bet money at 11 o'clock we're going to see Tropical Storm Idalia. They are going to confirm what we're seeing. 850 winds, extremely well defined. 700 millibar, stacking up. 500 a little sloppy. Showing, this is development stages. So anyway, developing system, that's clear signature. We have a high pressure system parked over top of it. That's allowing this thing to intensify. Low shear environment down there. And it's expected to have, you don't hear people talking about shear anymore. So the conditions are now expected to be favorable as this enters the Gulf of Mexico. When you don't see any models showing millibar reduction on approach, that means that they're not seeing weakening conditions on approach to landfall. Now, I'm going to stress it a bunch here. What I've seen over the years with intensity intensifying systems at landfall, fast-moving systems at landfall, big trouble inland, okay? Because this storm will not just like snap your fingers and it's going to weaken. Wherever this thing decides to make landfall, you're going to see cat whatever winds way inland because it's fast-moving and it was still developing at the time of landfall. Hurricane Michael, Cat 3 winds all the way into lower Georgia, lower Alabama. Nobody talked about that. Places, I remember driving through Albany, Georgia on the way home from Talladega. Man, there were trees down everywhere from Michael. Too much focus is always put on the coast. Not enough focus is ever put on the inland effects. And this thing, if it's developing, if it's deepening, it's going to have a lot of problems inland. And this is going to stretch through Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and maybe some of Virginia. Power outages are going to be extremely widespread. We have a super moon. I'm going to talk about that here in a second. Super moon, highest tides of the year. Tuesday and Wednesday, super moon. And I need to talk about the cone. So let me show you the latest. And I'm not being rude by not reading, but this is how I work. So there's the latest cone, the National Hurricane Center cone. What this cone means, even Julie, plug your ears, please, because my wife just said it, and this is what everybody thinks. I told her just now, do you want me to get you and the girls a hotel room? And she said, why? She said, we're on the edge. The edge of the cone. Ask anybody that experienced Hurricane Ian last year. They were on the outside of the edge. The NHC stresses the cone is where the eye can go. It's not where the effects. It's so important. So many people in Ian blew off the storm because they thought it was going to Tampa. They didn't. You see the edge of the cone and you think, I'm safe. So the cone is where the eye could go. The effects are way outside that cone. The cone is just where the center of the storm. I can't stress that enough. So many people believe that this is like where the effects are. So that's that. We got hurricane force winds likely all the way up into Georgia, maybe South Carolina. Let me just draw on this map for a second. Wherever this thing decides to go, remember, on approach, the worst part of the storm is going to be off to the right. We're going to see nasty squalls beginning as early as Monday for lower Florida. You're going to see feeder bands, they're called. They're notoriously known for tornadoes way away from center. So tornadoes are going to be very likely across the Florida Peninsula as this thing approaches. As this thing exits, we're going to have the same effects. Wherever it decides to go, you got a lot of warm water with that Gulf Stream. So you're going to have big storms rotating inward to the coastlines. And we're already seeing some really big rain effects here across the mountains as Idalia passes through. So it's not only a Florida issue. I'm going to show some rain maps here in a second. But I just want to show the peninsula is going to get a lot of action regardless of the final track. The second thing I want to show here, what I have open, let's see. We showed that. There's a cone. Here's the latest spaghetti models on tropical tidbits. So the 12Z came out right before I went live. I have not seen a storm lately that has had as much windshield wiper effects or flip-flopping as we've been seeing. That's because the storm's kind of doing weird things. It's just meandering down there. If the models get a little fixed to the east, guess what? The models shift to the east. There's an approaching frontal line coming down early in the week. Very rare for the end of August. If that frontal line is weak and our storm is strong, it could pull it a little more north. If our center indeed forms a little to the east, it's going to go more to the east. I mean, that's why we have that cone. The cone right now is so important for anybody to understand. And outside that cone, as far as preparing, typically, most of your action, if you had a storm like this, typically most of your action is on the east side, the right side. So a little less action here a lot more action here as a tropical system moves inland. But we have seen a shift to the east. We still have now. We didn't have any spaghetti lines models showing the Tampa Bay area. Now we do again. So that keeps everybody in play. Another map I wanted to showcase here would be this map. All right, so this is a map. We talked a lot about the Euro. All right, now I'm going to show you some intensity models here in a second, the ones that the National Hurricane Center is now quoting. And longtime followers of mine know I track models more than anybody, and the H-Wharf, is a pretty good model as far as worst case scenarios, and now the new HAFS is. So we're going to show you that here in a second. But I focused a lot on the Euro. So many predictions are based on the Euro. The problem with the Euro was that it didn't expect our system to develop as fast as it's developing. It expected our system to leave the Yucatan tomorrow as about 1,005, 1,006, with giving it less time to develop. Now that it's developing quicker, the Euro now is under 990. And I told my buddy Austin here, he would just text me. I'm like, if we wake up and the Euro's below 990, then these intensity models are becoming more believable. And what also is now increased on the Euro, because it's showing a stronger system, is the wave height. The second big story of this could become, more than anything, is going to be the surge on the west coast of Florida because of this super moon coming. And the closer this system gets to Tampa Bay, with wave maps now predicted to be 44 foot. This this is not surge. It's very deceiving. Wave heights are not surge, but 44 foot waves in the Gulf is very rare. And you get pushing winds into the coast. This is going to add to those surge levels. This is just a good representation of how surge works. You got surge, you got supermoon, then you have waves on top of those two. That's what a lot of folks didn't realize with Ian. You have, let's say, a surge value of 5. Then you have to add the tide to that, which is going to be magnified because of the supermoon. So now your 5 goes to 8. Well, then you add the waves on top of that. And if you get an approaching major hurricane, worst case, that really magnifies the level of water impact. So it's the surge plus the tide plus the supermoon, which is part of the tide, and then waves. So don't think if this thing doesn't make a direct hit to Tampa, my area, Pinellas, Pasco, northward, Manatee, we're not going to see some sort of coastal effects. So you got to really watch this. And last thing I'm going to say about the tracks, and then I'm going to show models. The folks at Ian are probably... Folks in Tampa are feeling what the folks at Ian were feeling, or the folks during Ian, the people in Fort Myers at this point were feeling what the people in Tampa are feeling now. Oh, this is going off to the west. We're okay. When in reality, we've had Charlie, Irma, and Ian turn at the last second. Stronger systems tend to do that. So we have to remember history repeats itself. We're going to have a turning system to the northeast. So I would be very cautious if you're on that eastern edge of the cone to not focus on the center more than ever, because we have seen storms pulling up from the Gulf and turning on that eastern part of the cone. So it's just important. And that's not hype. This is not like, oh, I prepared for Ian, I'm not going to do it again. You just got to hit the reset button and realize this is real. You can't hide from it. You can't turn your cheek and say, it ain't going to happen, because we're starting to see modeling suggest it. Now at 11 o'clock, we'll get a new update from the National Hurricane Center. They started out 75, they went to 80, and the last update they showed 90. So they're doing this progression. And let me tell you, the most important thing to do at 11 o'clock when it comes out is read that right there, the NHC discussion. You get a gut feeling of what they're seeing and what they're probably going to do. Let me just read this to you. This isn't like Romper Room. I'm not trying to this helps me too, but very warm, deep waters, that ocean heat content, which we talk about all the time. Talking about the front's going to come down, pick our system up. This is where it gets a little tricky. This is what they said. There's a notable risk of rapid intensification while the system moves across the record warm waters. The new forecast is raised, and then your forecaster wrote this: I'm reluctant to make any big changes to the forecast until we get real-time data, but the upward trend of models certainly bears watching. So, the bazillion posts that I've read that it's only going to be a tropical storm or Category 1, you're lying. Then pick up the phone and call the National Hurricane Center and tell them they're full of it too, because they're not, obviously. So they're referencing the H-WRF and the HAFS. Again, I've loved the H-WRF over the years. People think I'm crazy for that, but they obviously believe in it a little bit now too. And last on the models here, before I close some windows, this is weathernerds.org. These are your latest European ensembles, and it's just keeping it real. Keeping it real. And now that I doubted the 00 suite of spaghetti models didn't have anything past like here. It was nothing down here. Well, now we have it down here. So this is very believable. And again, I think I've stressed it enough. This thing's still going to be hurricane strength deep into Georgia. And once this thing gets over South Carolina and stuff, we're going to see a lot of storms rolling in off of the Atlantic. And most of it's gone by Thursday night, Friday. So let's take a look. Now, let's go to the website. I did NHC tone. God, I can't read my damn handwriting. What the hell does that say? Show. I'm getting bad. RILE. Show risks. I think I did that one. Worst case tidbits. That's what we're going to show right now. Windshield wipers. I covered that. Inland. I covered that. Oh, storm chasing. I am storm chasing. Follow me here on Facebook or YouTube, and you will find that we'll be streaming during this whole thing. Truck's ready to go. I posted in Texas last week. How many of y'all remember my post? I said it looks like I'll be chasing a storm here at home next week. Okay, so here we go. Models time. My favorite thing in the morning to do. I swear it's like an addiction. I was texting my buddy. My buddy Dennis Phillips. Let me tell you something about old Dennis Phillips. He and I have been friends for many years. I guess compared to Dennis, I am a hypist a little bit because I do share things. He's like, what are you doing showing that? I'm like, I don't know. I probably shouldn't. But I see people on his TikTok, bashing me. And I'm like, I love it because whatever. The people don't realize we like each other. So. All right, so let's show you this. All right, I shared this. Let me go back to my Twitter page. Let me show you what happened overnight. Here was... Okay, so notice on this model here, these are your worst case scenario models. The HAFS did extremely well last year. It was an experimental model. Now they debuted it. It's available now. Weather Models has it. Tropical Tidbits has it for free. It's their new forecast model. They're going to be using it a lot. The H-WRF is the one I referred to a bunch. HMON's the old GFDL, if you remember back in the day. To me, it's usually the weakest of all models as far as intensity goes. But I want you to know two things. All right, so what I learned with the H-WRF, the track's never really that great, but this is with the overnight 0Z models. This is like almost worst case scenario, 921 millibar. I don't have to tell you how strong that is. The HAFS model, 936, again, very strong. And two other models, 953, 959. Notice they're all focusing on the Florida Panhandle. Notice how I keep talking about flip-flops. It's not because I love them. Everybody knows I love my flip-flops. It's because the models are flip-flopping more than I've ever seen lately on a tropical system. So those came out. Notice where their position is now. We go to the latest 6Z run, and it's shifted back east. So, number one thing I learned with Ian, people's emotions, including mine, more than anybody's, reacts to every 6 hour update. And I, more than anybody, forget the windshield wiping, the flip-flopping back and forth. You might have saw the overnight HAFS. If you're in the Panhandle, oh hell. If you're on the West Coast, don't have anything to worry about. 6 hours later, so that's why we have a cone. But anyway, there's a new HAFS. It's a little weaker, but it's still 966 sitting here off the coast of Tampa Bay on Tuesday night, overnight. This is midnight. Super moon. This would bring a lot of surge. If this track verified, it would be way worse than Ada in 2020. And it has landfall and a crossover. 976 over Jacksonville. Heavy winds. Again, effects are widespread. There's no point of asking, individual locations. Watch what happens to the winds, though. Once this thing gets back over water, guess what? These winds now, counterclockwise, then things get a little hairy along the East Coast. And we still have a potential hurricane off the coast. We could still have potential hurricane warnings and watches along South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia. We could have that. If this thing exits out of Florida right here, then expect at the minimum tropical storm force warnings, likely hurricane warnings up for the coastline as this exits. So, again, and you know what? The NHC has that in the cone, so it's possible. It's very possible. And with that Euro picking up on that little southward jog today that the hurricane hunters are down there, the Euro might be the smartest yet with these possibilities because it's seeing that little jog to the south that we're seeing. All right, so there's one model. The HAFSB came out. It was almost the same, 955. This one a tick west, but notice both of them are more east than they were overnight. So again, anybody, don't let your emotions react to every 6 hour change. That's number one thing I learned with Ian. Don't let your guards down. As long as we got modeling, and it's not really that. You might think, oh my God, it's such a wide spread. Well, it's really not. We're not talking Mobile. We're not talking New Orleans. We're not talking Texas. We kind of know where this is going, and we've known where it's been going now for 3 or 4 days. The biggest question mark ever was intensity. And now we're seeing intensity become a reality. That was the big unknown. Timing has been Tuesday, Wednesday. Nothing's really changed. I think this has been a easy storm predict. It was the intensity that is now tricking a lot of folks. So there's 951, the latest HWRF showing. I think it stayed a little more towards the Panhandle. No, it didn't. Oh, geez. So you talk about a shift. Again, the HWRF to me isn't a very good track model. So, but if this doesn't at least keep West Central watching close, this is, maybe it won't come. But I just hope, like I said, think about this. When we were watching Ian and it was coming to Tampa, most people down around Fort Myers area on that edge of that cone were probably feeling the same feelings that people in Tampa are feeling right now. It's going to miss us. It's going up, it's going north. And people in Tampa now are thinking it's going west. I just can't stress out enough. These models are going to bounce back and forth, and my biggest concern at this point is people aren't taking the seriousness of this storm and the possibilities that now the NHC is mentioning. I feel comfortable now sharing this kind of stuff because the NHC is at least talking about it. I did not feel comfortable mentioning it 2 days ago because that would have been the outlier. So there's that. All right, let's look at. So your operational models, they tend to do things slower. Let's take a look at the latest. I don't know if the 6Z came out yet, did it? Does he have the 6Z on here? Oh yeah, we have the 6Z. How far out does it go? 90 hours. How did it run yet? Let's see. Actually, I think that's 72. I can do the 90 hour on weather models. So the Euro 6Z just came out. This is where it's real important to, with the Euro now doing things 4 times a day, it's really nice to be able to see any new trends. And it hasn't changed. It's actually keeping it 992. So that's good news. So there you go. No big change with the Euro. Still kind of big bend, right? 992 pressure. That would be great. That would be category 1. Let's hope. But Euros in the past has been very underestimated on intensity sometimes. But hey, let's just keep it real. There's that. Let's look at the latest UK. The UK has been pretty good model the last couple years. I believe it's almost in the same exact spot as the Euro. Let's take a lookie. 00Z is running right now. Okay, same spot. Low 990s. That's good. There you go. All right. So there's UK and Euro showing big bend. Close, obviously, to those West Coast effects. Remember, inland, this thing's still deepening. Most models are showing this to continue to deepen as this goes over land. A lot of that's going to be because of that front. We've seen it a lot of times. That front's going to actually help energize this a little bit, and we're seeing the pressures actually deepen a little bit more. That's why it's so important to let people know inland. But let's just use these models for tracks. Let's look at the latest GFS, which I feel obligated to, I guess. It's showing a little more to the west, but it's way down on intensity now, 964. That's one of the box of chocolate GFS runs. You don't know what you're going to get. But there you go. It's keeping that common theme at least. The icon, man, why did I click out of that? Now I got to do all my damn clicking again. Icon, not the best track model, but it's a little bit north of Tampa. Has been trending a little bit south, so that is a little bump to the north. The icon has been trending a little more into Tampa. So you're getting the feeling, right? Things have not changed in the last couple of days. We're talking like that, you know. What other good models do we have? We got the, I don't really trust, Canadian model. I guess we can look at Canadian model. And it's actually up back in the Panhandle too. Remember last year with Ian, we had a lot of models trending, but we had a lot of ensembles showing that turn into Southwest Florida. That's why ensembles are so important right now. I used to not look at ensembles, but ensembles, you can find them on a lot of places. I do have a link here. So by the way, all right, so let's talk about the website real quick. So everything in this column, TD10, I have the link to I told everybody I'd do this. I did it. Florida Division Emergency Management. There you go. State of Florida, floridadisaster.org. There's everything you might need to know if you live in the state of Florida. The NHC graphics discussions. I have a surge map. So another thing Shelley says everybody wants to know is, so the number one question, surge maps and hurricane hunters. You go on the bottom of this here, there's a hurricane hunter picture. There's also a link that says hurricane hunters. They have a ton of missions out there today. So if you click on this, you have 2 flights right now, it looks like, currently happening. This is Franklin. So that's a link to that. I have a picture on the site that kind of gives you an idea where to go, hurricane hunters. The other thing is surge. We don't have any official surge maps yet from the National Hurricane Center, but there is an experimental one here that says surge map right here. Kind of gives you an idea what's coming based on the, they updated it. Look at that. So this is cool. So it is being updated. Here is some of your, now this site's experimental. It's good. It adjusts to NHC forecast. So this is based on 90 mile an hour hurricane. If this goes to 100, the surge is going to increase with it. But you're starting to see these surge values. And look, I talk about it. It's so fascinating to think, but the heaviest surge is always on the east side. That's because of the counterclockwise flow of storms. All your storms build around a center and they push in. So very little surge on the backside. You get some from just the storms themselves pushing forward, but almost no surge. You get reverse surge, winds coming out of the other direction. That's why the east side is always the one to watch. But we're already seeing some pretty dang big totals here, man. All right, so there's the latest track. New track comes out at 11. We'll see what they shift, east or west. Anybody in this cone. I have another map here that you can click next to it. It's called Surge Potential. That's a good map to look at worst case scenarios. It's very hard to figure out because so much is dependent upon current tracks and, but it gives you a basic idea. It's all dependent upon storm angle. But, Category 3, heck, US 19 could be flooded. But you can play around with it. Like I said, it's really confusing because it's all dependent upon the angle of approach. So even though you're in the cone, let's say you're in the cone here or whatever, you're not going to get that surge. It's all dependent upon where eyewall goes and the right side. So you won't get any of that. So surge confuses the heck out of everybody because they're like, well, I thought we were going to get surge. Well, you're on the wrong side of the storm. Ian and Irma went south of Tampa Bay. We had water blown out of the bay because the winds came from the other direction. So, then we got to worry about things like this. Once this storm exits up out of the state here, we're going to see winds temporarily blowing back towards St. Johns River. And then we're going to see the storm effects here along the eastern side of the U.S. here, South Carolina, North Carolina, obviously Georgia. So that'll be what we watch next. And it all depends on where it exits. If it exits here, it'll be a little weaker. Still have coastal effects, no doubt. This thing hugs the coast, then we could see a hurricane warning for the East Coast. Definitely, especially if it's strong here. Stronger system here, it ain't gonna weaken much the time it gets over here. It's gonna be feeding off of this warm Gulf Stream water. So, all right. So there's how many bazillion questions did I miss, Shelley? Oh my goodness! So I think I covered everything. We talked about the moon wave maps. We're slowly transitioning into trusting the Hurricane Center graphics for everything. They're going to be updating everything at 11 a.m. We'll get all new rainfall maps, timing. This is a great map showing you when you might start feeling tropical storm force winds. So a lot of questions about schools. I still think Tuesday, there's going to be a lot of school closures across Florida on Tuesday. We can start seeing tropical storm force winds as early as Tuesday morning for bottom half of Florida, especially the southeast side. So there's very good likelihood that schools will be shut down on Tuesday. Probably for most of the state. You know why? Because schools are shelters. And they have to get ready. They have to start getting things ready for evacuations. They can't have buses on the roads when we have tropical storm force winds. So that, might be Wednesday too. For sure, probably more Wednesday for the Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina for school closures. But Florida, don't be surprised if they close a lot of schools on Tuesday. As we can start seeing tropical storm force winds as early as Tuesday. So the way these things look, let me show you what we're looking at. So there's going to be a tornado chance always. The atmosphere with those warm waters, very unstable. There's going to be a lot of energy coming in from the Gulf of Mexico. So as early as Monday night, we're going to start to see bands of storms reaching lower Florida. And things really start to ramp up as we get into Tuesday. So here's Tuesday morning. This is all estimated, obviously based on track, but God, I always miss the damn button and it goes to the bottom there. All right, so this is, it's like a game. Like I gotta go round that. All right, Tuesday morning. Look at that sucker. If it's to the east, like the H Wharf is showing, we're gonna see some nasty bands of storms reaching the Keys already by Tuesday morning. Today's Sunday. These bands are gonna make their way inland throughout the day. Here's a big one setting up Tuesday, going into noontime. God, if I do that one more time, sorry, your eyes are going. It's because when I slide my mouse down, I'm hitting more timers. All right. So here's midday Tuesday. Nasty lines showing up on Tuesday of bands of rain. And there's going to be isolated storms. This is Tuesday night into overnight. This is getting into the nighttime hours. So again, bands of storms are going to be building out here in the Gulf of Mexico, and we're going to have these things spread, and even energy off the Atlantic is going to help build supercells as this thing approaches. So always people focus on landfall, and they forget that the tornado threat is going to be there and way from center. Ian came ashore, and we had tornadoes everywhere popping down here in South Florida because of that energy coming in around it off of the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Gulf Stream there. So for sure. And again, the east side is a little less. You'll get some wrap around, but you won't get as much as you do on the right side. And then what it could look like, there you go. I mean, it's kind of sloppy looking there, but this is through Wednesday night. Big storms. This thing rides the coastline before it exits out of here. So it will be gone probably by Friday for most everybody. That's been the timing pattern. So I'm just, at this point, we'll see how much the hurricane hunters believe. Now there's some really good maps here I have on my site that link. Wind analysis is a good site. This is all links now that you can click on and start getting wind data. I know there's a lot of weather gurus that like stuff like this, but I have so many links here. This whole column has the microwave imagery. This is kind of showing you the heart of the storm and how the convection might be starting to set up. A lot of folks like this one. There is a Dvorak. I never say it right, but this kind of tells you the estimated pressure. And oh man, I haven't seen this one yet. Look at that. They're showing 998 already. Remember yesterday, man? We said if this thing turns into a tropical storm today, we're in trouble down the road, and it's already at 998 according to this. That's pretty low. The euro is expecting 1,006 at liftoff tomorrow, not 998. I also have Storm Products. I love this one. This is real-time look at a bazillion things. You click shear. Click convergence. Divergence. A lot of people like that. Vorticity. I like the dry air one. Very little dry air in the Gulf of Mexico right now. You're not hearing people talk about the shear anymore like they were. But you can look at things like current infrared, water vapor, visible. You can zoom in to 2km, which is really zoomed in. So it's a good one. You got timestamps here. You can click on it and get an idea, what's going on. That's called Storm Products. And I'll try to keep everything going right here. But this is pretty much where all the links are. So anyway. I'm going to try to read random questions. Again, we stream all winter long. We usually talk to everybody. I'm not rude. The way these chats work is you get a bazillion of them, and I think the majority of people hopefully are here for content, and I want to provide that as much as I can. Hopefully, it's so hard to figure out what I want to talk about and do it that makes sense. I mean, I've been doing it a long time, since 16. We've been through a lot of storms together. Lots of, all right, great question, Shelly. Thanks, Shelly. So a lot of people asking about millibars. All right, so the lower the number, the stronger the storm. 1,004 is not a very deep system. That's barometric pressure. Typically, 990s is around a tropical storm. The lower the pressure now means it's developing, and the risk for rapid intensification is real. So 950, I have an old Saffir-Simpson scale. Me and Austin again, we're talking today. For reference, I think Ian was around 930, in the 930s. I don't want to get misquoted. 930s millibar range is what the lowest pressure for Ian was. I don't know if that was landfall or not, but just to give you an idea, Ian was around 930 range pressure. The Saffir-Simpson scale doesn't use pressure anymore. It uses wind speed only. So the old Saffir-Simpson scale, this is when you see Category 1, Category 2, Category 3. Now they only use wind speed. That's what the hurricane hunters are out there looking for right now, is wind speed. The old Saffir-Simpson scale went somewhat by pressure. So, anything in the 930 range, Cat 4. They don't go by pressure anymore. So even though Michael was, I think, in the 920s, it still had hurricane Cat 5 winds. But just to give it an idea, the lower the pressure, the stronger the storm. Anything in the 940 to 945 to 964 is still Cat 3. That's a major hurricane on the old scale. Your surge increases because of that. Pressure actually pushes down on the water and creates surge. Surge is also created by the increased winds pushing water towards the shore. So I have this graphic on the site if you're curious what a basic idea is. And, Cat 1, 994, Hera was at 995, so it never technically was a hurricane. So these are good markers. Now, if you really love operational models, most of your operational models are keeping it a Category 1 hurricane. So again, it's not guaranteed it's going to be anything greater than that. It's just you feel the tension a little bit from the Hurricane Center, like maybe it's going to be something more to worry about. So it's better to just prepare for that. So there's a lot of questions on shear. Shelley says, all I can go is what I've learned. Shear forecasts are so hard to determine. I have read more now that the upper level winds are not a big factor. As a matter of fact, a couple Mets today said the system's going to be entering an area of favorable shear. Shear is your upper level winds. The stronger the upper level winds are, the more it can blow apart thunderstorms. Less shear means more chance storms can rise and rotate and turn into lower pressures. Long-range shear forecasts are hard to determine. You have upper-level lows. You have approaching frontal line. We can go to the Euro on tropical tidbits and just kind of take a look here. At your 200 millibars, your jet stream level, here's kind of where we're sitting right now, and you can see the upper-level lows kind of setting up. White means less winds, and that's why our system's underneath a pocket of light wind shear right now. We have the upper-level jet going around it, which you can see very well, but not where our storm's at. So our storm's underneath an area of light wind shear. You can go to 250 on this map here, and you can really see it. You got an upper level disturbance spinning, but there's your main shear coming down. But our system is actually in a little pocket right next to that, and you can see that on the latest Euro white area, less shear. And then we go forward in time, that shear kind of moves with our system, but it almost pulls out of here. And Tuesday and Wednesday, we have some shear incoming from the west. Originally it looked like it was going to be a sheared system with most of your action off to the west side, but none of the models are really showing that on the rain maps, at least. So it's going to have shear, but the color is the best. But it's going to have some shear. But these models now should be taking that into account. These high resolution hurricane models. Shelly's turned into like a kid at school here asking me questions. Yeah, we'll be live tonight, 6 o'clock. I love 6 o'clock. We'll be live PM tonight. We'll go over everything. So I get a million texts. Yeah, so man, what do you do, man? If you're looking at operational models, you're like, this isn't going to be that big a deal. But I didn't even take a sip of my coffee today. It's terrible. This is like coffee abuse right here. Yep, 6 o'clock. So shear is hard to predict. There we go. Let's see. There's another one. I really don't understand shear, to tell you the truth. I've never understood shear. I've seen storms like Michael overcome shear. Seen some storms that had barely any shear fall apart. So these shear maps are way beyond my level. This is your 250 down to 200 to 850 millibar. And if you look at Franklin, 957 hurricane, and it looks like a lot more shear, right? And we have our Idalia setting up with what appears to be less shear. So, there is some dry air. I don't, again, know exactly how much. We already have moisture riding up with our system. There is some dry air showing up from the backside. Some of this could get ingested into our system a little bit, but if it creates its own little moisture bubble, this isn't the dry air that we're showing on that one map, but could be some dry air. Precipitable water map looking pretty juicy. Man, this thing goes way down. Where's my precipitable water? Somewhere down here. Hey, I did put on my cleanest dirty shirt today, by the way. Here's your moisture map. I did wear this shirt last night. It's only technically 4 hours old. So this is your reds and your oranges. This is the amount of moisture in the atmosphere. If you look at Hurricane Franklin, it doesn't seem like it have a lot of moisture, right? So this has always been a concern of mine, is the amount of moisture in the atmosphere to work with. The more moisture to work with, the more ability it's going to be to pull in and create thunderstorms. So current water map, that's the amount of moisture in the atmosphere. This is your P-watt values. And it looks like there's a lot of moisture out there to work with. Some of this could get ingested in, yeah, but for now, a lot of moisture down there to work with. That's why they're raising their tone a little bit about possibilities of this becoming a little stronger. A lot of bubbling going on down there. Bubble, 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 bubble. Bonnie wants to know when the hurricane hunters are in. They're in now. I got a link on the site. There's a lot, 2 of them flying around down there. If they find what I think they might find, then we might have 11 o'clock tropical storm. Watches are usually issued 48 hours away from impact, so maybe by tonight, maybe they'll start issuing them. It's hard to tell. I've always thought that this is a little deceiving to people, too. Another thing, I wonder if people see this and they notice there's no watches or warnings and they let their guards down, maybe. Because you almost know there's going to be a hurricane coming, right? But you don't see watches or warnings. So I'm wondering how many people over the years just kind of blow it off and say, look at that. We're not under a watch. Maybe they should have watches maybe it would make more sense if the cone was touching an area that they were pretty confident of a track. It probably wouldn't hurt to issue the watch at least just to let people know, hey. But I know it happens because let me tell you, as soon as there's a watch or a warning, man, it's like the page picks up. People take notice once there's a watch or warning. I know that. I see it. So I woke up Sunday morning. Okay, so we will be live tonight at 6 p.m. Pay attention to that cone. Weather Channel's acting like it's nothing. Well, maybe I did overhype. I don't know. But man, seeing consistency with some of these models, man, you know, and reading the NHC discussion. So, hey, Mr. Greg Montgomery, what's up? I wish I could be up there with you in Nashville, man. But at this point, listen, rain maps on the site. So the rain maps always start a little conservatively, I think. Let's take a look at the latest Euro. Now that the Euro is showing a little stronger system, I can probably believe the rain maps a little more. But they're already seeing 6 to 8 to 10 inches on the official rain maps. The latest Euro, oh God, starting to show massive rain in Carolinas. So here's your latest Euro rains, man, and we're seeing pockets of this is like bad. That's 12 inches plus. White is 6 inches plus. Could be a big story. The flooding to come, again, everybody's focused on landfall, and the folks in the Carolinas might say, it's going to weaken, it's not going to be nothing. Well, if this thing skirts the coast, pumps in all that moisture from the warm Gulf Stream there in the Atlantic, those purple values, 10 to 12 inches. So that's building as expected. So yeah, my buddy Jim Cantorio will be in town. Oh, let's do the size. Somebody asked me that. That was 500 miles yesterday. This will be tough because there's not a lot of convection right now, but we can still take a good guess looking at maybe the water vapor loop. It was peaking around 500 yesterday, so let's take a look. It's still big. All right, so I bet you it's probably 500 still. 523, 480, 428, 5. So it's about 5. I'd feel comfortable saying 500. Maybe tighten up a little bit. Well, there's 557. So 500. 480, 475, 500 right there. So 500 miles. I should probably post that. People like to know the size of a system. So it's roughly 400 to 500 miles wide. I could safely say that comfortably. Or say 400 to 500 plus. That's 500.97 right there. That's 600 long ways, but it's not 500. Let's just say 5. Well, now it's a little less right there. So let's say 450. 450 plus. 450 plus. Jim Cantori, I would think his first stop would probably be, I don't know. Don't know what his thinking is. Really curious of discussion. It'll be out in about 30 minutes on the National Hurricane Center. No, Tim. Tropical storm force winds. No, not. It's just the convection size on the storm. The range of the storm was 450 miles wide. Likely 100 miles. Usually around 100, 150 miles. But the hurricane hunters will be finding that kind of stuff out. Category nothing right now. It's a tropical depression. I think that's just got everybody a little weirded out to think we're talking about a tropical depression and what could happen as it enters the Gulf of Mexico. What day, Jacksonville? Well, Tuesday night, you'll start getting bands, and sometime Wednesday, likely, if you were to say hit by, but Tuesday, afternoon, Tuesday night, you'll start getting bands rolling in off the Atlantic towards you. William, I read your comment. Thank you, buddy. Tina, Cape Coral's watching. Cool. The fact that the euro went down a little bit, we'll see, you know. Randy wants to know my gut feeling. Well, I just worry about that last second turn. East. If this thing's in the 990 range pressure right now, then definitely worried about a major hurricane. Remember, major hurricane can be a 3, 4, or 5. And again, me included, we worry too much about the category name when we got inlet effects, we have surge. You know, Katrina was a category 3 and it had 28 foot of surge. Hurricane Ike was one of your second largest surge storms ever, and it was a category 2. Now this will be fast moving. Sometimes fast moving systems don't have enough time to push a lot of water. Every storm's different as far as effects. But I think my main concern with this one moving so fast is the inland effects that people are going to be caught off guard. There's going to be a lot of wind, tornadoes, rain way past landfall because it's going to be deepening. It's going to be deepening at landfall, which means it's going to weaken later as it's moving on through the northeast there. So I think a lot of folks will be like dealing with stronger winds than they might have in the past with the slower moving systems because they have more time to weaken before they move inland more. Tara says they might have found hurricane winds. Are you kidding me? You know, the only thing I go off of is this, and that definitely looks like it's got some decent winds already. I don't know hurricane yet, but those 850 winds are. Remember yesterday we had very remember yesterday's map. We had almost nothing showing. We had a very faint signature of winds, meaning very light winds. We had center. We didn't have this. That's pretty strong signature that this thing is at least trying to develop. All right. Any deniers out there? We can see what your thoughts are. All right. So, my advice to anybody living in that cone, you know, I don't think the West Central Florida should be thinking this is not their storm when we still have models close. And again, the east side of a storm can be bad. Not a direct hit, but surge, rain, tornadoes, thunderstorms. Doesn't take a direct hit to have nasty weather. So it's so important to not react to every 6-hour hurricane track change or wiggle or wobble. I think I went over everything good. Now I'm going to start going in circles. I got to stop. Oh, anyway, well, we went an hour. Appreciate it, everybody. Thanks to all the new followers and fans. We just lay it out there, let you guys and gals decipher it and hopefully prepare and know that there's a chance and who's got chances, and hopefully some clarity with some of this. We will be live later tonight. I'll be waiting for the 11 o'clock advisory. I'll post that here in a minute. We'll see what they say. I digest their wording. You try to look at what they're thinking by their words, and I suspect they'll bump the intensity up, I would say, to maybe 100. We'll see if they say 100. That would be a kind of a bold jump. But a lot more than it was yesterday. You know, so we'll get a new update, and we'll see. Now it's 90 mile an hour. We'll see if they bump it up. They will bump it up. I would almost bet they'd bump it up. I don't think the cone's going to change much. I don't think. If the cone were to change at all, it might wiggle a little bit more east, maybe. I don't think they're going to change the cone much at all. But I think we'll see a little intensity bump and a little more discussion about the possibilities of this becoming, and why do you go against the models, let's say? Well, at this point, we're not, but we have to realize that history shows rapid intensification is real, and it's happened a lot lately. And we're dealing with water that's hotter than any other storm has done. So we've seen rapid intensification with waters that were 3 to 4 to 5 degrees cooler than what we're seeing now. So history says that any low pressure area down there has the ability to strengthen, and a lot of them do. We got the conditions. That's why we got to pay attention. So what it does today is a lot to do with what it's going to do tomorrow. And the deeper this thing is now, the more trouble we're going to have down the road, because this is already showing 998, and it wasn't supposed to be that low today. So, alrighty. Well, hey, yeah, thanks to Shelly, man. She does a good job. Appreciate all the supporters out there. Like I said, I apologize if I missed your comments so hard. But anyway, we will be back tonight at 6 p.m. We'll be live tomorrow night, Tuesday morning. And by Tuesday morning, we should know exactly where it's going. We should know who's going to be affected by this. And then Tuesday after the live, man, I'm in the old Storm Chaser. I think it's the return of Phil. Phil gave me the okay yesterday. He might want to go again. We'll see. Truck's ready to go. All right. We will see y'all later tonight, and I'll be posting like a madman today. So keep it glued to the social media feeds. You can find me more than just Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, and YouTube. All right. See ya.